The morning mist clung low over Swift Creek, wrapping the landscape in a soft, gauzy veil that seemed to blur the lines between reality and dream. The air was cool and damp, carrying the earthy scent of wet soil and decaying leaves, a fragrance that spoke of life and death intertwined in the cycle of nature. Shrouding the marshland in an ethereal silence, the mist created an almost otherworldly atmosphere. It was as if time itself had slowed, allowing the marsh to exist in a state of suspended animation, untouched by the hustle and bustle of the world beyond its borders. The rising sun, a pale disk through the haze, cast long, distorted shadows from the reeds and cypress trees. These shadows danced and shifted with the gentle movement of the water, creating a mesmerizing play of light and dark that seemed to tell a story of its own. A pair of blue herons stalked through the shallows, their movements measured and graceful, their sharp eyes scanning the water for breakfast. Each step they took was deliberate, their long legs barely causing a ripple in the still water. They were the silent hunters of the marsh, their presence a testament to the delicate balance of life in this tranquil ecosystem. A gentle breeze rustled the reeds, whispering secrets only the swamp could understand. The sound was soothing, a natural symphony that blended with the calls of distant birds and the occasional splash of a fish breaking the surface. It was a reminder that even in the quietest moments the marsh was alive with activity. It was a scene of serene beauty, untouched by the anxieties of the world beyond the marsh's embrace. Here, in this secluded corner of nature, time seemed to stand still, offering a refuge for those seeking solace and a connection to the natural world. A lone canoe cut through the glassy surface. Its occupant, a young man named Jason Clark, an avid bird watcher, glided silently through the water. Jason had always felt a deep connection to Swift Creek, a bond that had only grown stronger with each visit. The marsh was his sanctuary, a place where he could escape the pressures of daily life and immerse himself in the wonders of nature. He had been visiting Swift Creek since he was a boy, drawn to its untamed beauty and the abundant wildlife it harbored. Over the years, he had come to know the marsh intimately, learning its secrets and rhythms, and developing a profound respect for the delicate balance that sustained its diverse ecosystem. Little did he know, this day at Swift Creek would be unlike any other, etching itself into his memory with chilling clarity. As he paddled deeper into the marsh, he felt a sense of anticipation, a feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. The air seemed charged with an electric energy, a subtle shift that hinted at the unfolding of an unexpected event. The peace of the morning was about to be shattered, the tranquility ripped apart by a discovery as unsettling as it was inexplicable. Jason's keen eyes caught sight of something unusual in the water, a shape that didn't belong in the serene landscape of the marsh. His heart quickened as he steered the canoe closer, curiosity and apprehension battling for dominance in his mind. The herons, sensing a disturbance in the force of nature they instinctively understood, took flight, their harsh cries echoing through the stillness. Their sudden departure added to the growing sense of unease, a sign that something was amiss. As Jason approached the mysterious object, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. Jason paddled closer, his curiosity battling with a growing sense of unease. The swamp was a place of mystery, a labyrinth of murky waters and twisted trees that seemed to whisper secrets to those who dared to venture into its depths. Each stroke of the paddle sent ripples through the still water, disturbing the eerie silence that hung over the marshland like a shroud. The deer's eyes, wide and vacant, stared up at the sky, devoid of life. It was a haunting sight, one that seemed to freeze time itself. The lifeless gaze of the animal was a stark reminder of the fragility of life, a silent testament to the violence that had befallen it. Jason couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine as he looked into those empty eyes. Something about the scene felt profoundly wrong, as if the very air had grown heavy with a malevolent presence. The fog that clung to the trees seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy, and the shadows cast by the twisted branches danced like spectres in the mist. It was as if the swamp itself was alive, watching, waiting, and whispering secrets that were never meant to be heard by human ears. He cautiously stepped out of the canoe, his boots sinking into the soft mud. Each step was a struggle, the ground seeming to pull him deeper into the mire. The squelching sound of his boots in the mud was the only noise in the oppressive silence, a reminder of his isolation in this desolate place. He moved slowly, each step deliberate, as if the very ground beneath him could betray him at any moment. The stench of decay already clung to the air, a sickly sweet odour that spoke of something far more sinister than a natural death. The smell was overpowering, a nauseating blend of rot and corruption that seemed to seep into his very pores. Flies buzzed around the carcass, their incessant droning adding to the sense of unease that gripped him. It was a smell that spoke of death, but also of something darker, something that defied explanation. As he drew closer to the carcass, he noticed the unnatural pallor of the flesh, drained of blood. The sight was unsettling, the once vibrant life now reduced to a pale, lifeless husk. The blood, or rather the lack of it, was a mystery in itself. It was as if the very essence of the animal had been siphoned away, leaving behind only an empty shell. The pallor of the flesh was a stark contrast to the vibrant green of the surrounding foliage, a reminder of the unnaturalness of the scene, and the strange, almost surgical precision with which the animal had been dismembered. The cuts were clean, too clean, as if made by a blade rather than the teeth of a predator. It was a disturbing thought, one that suggested a level of intent and malice that was deeply unsettling. The precision of the dismemberment spoke of a cold, calculating mind, one that took pleasure in the act of destruction. It was a sight that would haunt Jason's dreams for years to come. Fear, primal and instinctive, tightened its grip on Jason's chest. It was a fear that went beyond the rational, a deep-seated terror that spoke to the very core of his being. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a reminder of his vulnerability in this hostile environment. He could feel the sweat trickling down his back, a cold, clammy reminder of his fear. It was a fear that told him to run, to flee from this place and never look back. He had stumbled upon something beyond his comprehension, something that whispered of dark and ancient forces at play in the swamp's depths. The whispers seemed to come from all around him, a chorus of voices that spoke of secrets long buried and powers best left undisturbed. It was a feeling of being watched, of being judged by unseen eyes. The swamp was a place of mystery and danger, a place where the line between the natural and the supernatural was blurred. Jason knew that he had to leave, but the question was, would he be able to escape the grasp of the dark forces that seemed to hold him in their thrall? For a moment he saw nothing but the swaying reeds and the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. The forest seemed peaceful, almost serene, with the gentle rustling of leaves and the soft murmur of the creek, providing a soothing soundtrack to the afternoon. Jason had come here often, seeking solace in the quiet embrace of nature, where the troubles of the world seemed to melt away. But today something felt different, an undercurrent of unease that he couldn't quite place. Then, as if materializing from the shadows themselves, a shape began to emerge from the reeds. It was subtle at first, a mere flicker at the edge of his vision, but it quickly grew more distinct. Jason's heart began to race as he squinted, trying to make sense of the apparition. The air around him seemed to grow colder, and the once comforting sounds of the forest faded into an eerie silence. It was large, impossibly large, its form shifting and undulating like smoke in the wind. The shape seemed to defy logic, its edges blurring and reforming as if it were made of some ethereal substance. Jason felt a chill run down his spine as he watched, unable to tear his eyes away. The creature's movements were almost hypnotic, a dance of shadows that both fascinated and terrified him. It was darker than the surrounding shadows, an absence of light that seemed to absorb all colour and definition. The figure seemed to draw in the very essence of the forest, leaving a void in its wake. Jason's breath caught in his throat as he realized that this was no ordinary shadow. It was something far more sinister, a presence that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent. Jason watched in terror as the shape slowly resolved itself, taking on a vaguely humanoid form. Its features were indistinct, a blur of darkness that hinted at a face but never fully revealed it. The creature's eyes, if it had any, were hidden in the depths of its shadowy visage. Jason felt a primal fear grip him, a deep-seated instinct that screamed at him to run, to flee from this abomination. It was tall, impossibly tall, towering over the reeds like a grotesque parody of a man. The creature's height seemed to stretch beyond the limits of the natural world, its form bending and twisting in ways that defied comprehension. Jason's mind struggled to process what he was seeing, the sheer impossibility of the creature's existence threatening to overwhelm him. Its limbs were long and sinuous, ending in appendages that could have been claws or hands, but whatever they were, they filled Jason with a sense of primal dread. The creature's movements were fluid, almost graceful, but there was an underlying menace to its every gesture. Jason could feel the weight of its gaze upon him, a silent promise of danger that sent shivers down his spine. He knew he had to get away, but his legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot by a fear that was as ancient as the forest itself. He had to tell someone, had to warn them before it was too late. But who would believe him? Who would believe the tale of a monster in the swamp, a creature that defied logic and reason? He knew what he had seen, but even he struggled to believe the terrifying reality that had unfolded before his eyes. The whispers of fear echoed in his mind, a constant reminder of the lurking darkness that lay hidden in the heart of Swift Creek. He knew with chilling certainty that he would never forget what he had seen, and that the swamp, once a place of solace and wonder, would forever be tainted by the memory of that monstrous encounter.